Hey everybody, I'm Videobob, and today we're going to be talking about my 1990 Prevost tour bus. Well, regular viewers of my channel might know that I have this bus. If you found this video because you were searching for Prevost buses, RVs, things like that, the things I normally do on my channel is luxury cars, custom cars, luxury items, things like that. And I'm posting this video on both of my channels, on the Videobob channel and on my other channel, Videobob's RV and Tour Bus channel. I used to drive a tour bus for a rock and roll band, a guy named Vinnie Paul. He was a drummer for a band called Pantera. Then he started a new band called Hell Yeah. And I drove the bus for them for a couple of tours. And he was one of my best friends and died in 2018. And well, anyway, I wanted to talk to you about this is a 1990 Prevost bus, and I've owned a few different RVs, buses over the years, and I'm going to explain to you why I think this is the best way to go. But first I want to tell you about another little story. Okay, so you might be wondering, why do I have a Rolls-Royce Phantom here in the video? This is my car, not flexing, not bragging, but I want to talk about something that's very important about what we're going to talk about today, and it's living rich through depreciation. This is a 2006 Rolls-Royce Phantom. When this thing came out, it was, I don't know, $400-something thousand. I picked it up at a salvage auction, paid under $60,000 for it, put a little bit of money, fixed it up. Now the thing's probably worth about $80 easily. And I just want to point out that most items will bottom out at their depreciation at between 10 and 20%. They'll hover around there for a while, and then as they become collectible, they'll start to go back up. So for instance, if you were to look at a Model T from 100 years ago that might have sold for $200, well, you're not gonna be able to buy it for $20. It might cost you $10,000 or $15,000. But this car is right in between that point of being an older used car versus being a collectible. It's still a very desirable luxury vehicle. And I got it at, maybe 20% of its value. So I've learned how to live rich and have the cool things that I like to enjoy, like luxury cars, tour buses, and lots of other things, by living through depreciation. And that's what we're going to talk about with these buses today. There are certain things that kind of always look the same, like that Rolls-Royce Phantom. I mean, the design hasn't changed that much over the last 10 or 15 years. The newer ones, yes, they're very different. Certain things kind of stay the same, like a 1911 pistol or a Zippo lighter, Rolex watches. And these buses, they made these stainless steel buses, the Prevost bus, for a very long time, and they only changed about every decade. Now, I want to preface this by saying I am not a bus expert. I'm just giving you some of my observations and my experiences owning these. But I will tell you, first of all, how to pronounce the name of the bus. It's not Prevost, even though it's an ST. It's a French-Canadian manufacturer. It's Prevost. Prevost! That's how you say it, in case you were wondering. And by the way, I'd like to mention that I am the administrator of the Prevost Owners Group on Facebook. So if you want to learn more about it, come on there. I will approve you, and we can talk all about it. This particular coach is made by a company called Angola. I have the Angola's Owners Group. I'll have all those links in the description. We're going to talk a little bit about all of those things here in just a second so that you understand more of what I'm talking about here. All right, let's first establish how all this works, okay? Prevost makes the bus. That's the physical chassis, the outside, the engine, the frame, the thing that goes down the road. And they sell basically empty buses with nothing inside them. Now, they do sell passenger buses with seats. Those are pretty common. But what they do is they sell their empty bus chassis to a coach builder. And in this case, it was a company called Angola Coach out of Angola, Indiana. A lot of RV manufacturers in Indiana for some reason. And they outfitted the bus the way they wanted to do it, usually bespoke just for the customer, just like the Rolls-Royces are. So you very rarely will ever find two buses exactly alike because The buses were not made like the RVs usually on an assembly line. Each one is custom built, custom spoke, with different floors, different colors, different walls, different layouts. They might have some standard layouts, but for the most part, they're going to be very different. Now, this is on the chassis of a 1990 Prevost XL Le Mirage. Now, this was pretty much the standard issue bus that Prevost made for a very long time, up until about 95 or 96, when they changed to a, this is a 40-foot long bus, and then they went to like a 45. There have been some variations in height and width and length and things like that. We're not going to get into all of that, because we could be here all day talking about all that stuff. But I am going to tell you a little bit about the big changeover that happened around 1995, 96 that's going to be really important to you, and it's going to matter to your budget, and it's going to matter how much space you really need. All right, coming around here to the business end of this thing is the Detroit Diesel 8V92. This is an automatic, this is a turbo. This is a big diesel engine. Now, this is a two-stroke engine. Now, up until about 95, 96, this is the engine they used for a long time. It uses a special oil, which is a low ash straight 40 weight. You have to get D-Low 100. Write that down if you have one of these. It's the only oil you can use, and it generally can't find it. You have to order it in. That's kind of a pain. But it's a really reliable motor. I mean, you know, 500,000 miles on one of these it's nothing, right? It's nothing. You find one of these with a couple 100,000 miles, don't worry about it. It's not going to be an issue. Diesel mechanics can hear these things coming a mile away because of the way they run. They run at a real high idle, and they have a certain sound to them. But what happened after about 95, 96, somewhere in that area, they went to the Detroit Diesel 60 series. Much better engine, more horsepower, 4-stroke, runs cooler. It's got twice the longevity, much better engine than this one. There might be some mechanics out there that would argue that. But that's one of the reasons you're going to see a huge spike in price between, let's say, a 95 and 96 and up. Because as you get into the 45-foot long, they're longer, usually. You can get, you know, these are 40-foot, 2 strokes. You get into the 45-foot, and you're going to see a price of double or triple what you can get one of these for. Now, what can you get one of these for? I got this one for about 75 grand. That's about 10% of its original value. Back in 1990 when this thing was new, it was $750,000. 10%. 10% I paid of its value. A brand new Prevost tour bus made by a coach builder nowadays would cost you $2 million bucks. This is the way they go, folks. Trust me. Okay, there's a bunch of different factors when you're looking for one of these. Now, one thing is an entertainer bus is what they use for tour buses. Those are usually stripped down. They have maybe 6 or 12 or even more bunks, just sleeping bunks that are made for sleeping. Sometimes there's a lounge in the back, little lounge up front. They don't generally have large kitchens. They don't generally have full bathrooms. They just have like a little toilet, maybe a little, you know, sink, a little bitty refrigerator, but they're made for sleeping. They're made for the crew and the band to sleep while going to the next gig. Those generally have smaller fuel tanks, very small water tanks, holding tanks, but much more luggage capacity, because those are made for carrying guys and their guitars and drums, and they're sleeping. The crew is asleep. That's not necessarily what you're looking for with an RV. What makes this bus so great is it was built as an RV. Now, you've got all of these big stainless steel doors on the side. This one, and they're always different, by the way, but this one here, this is my water bay, where I have my water heater, which is a heat transfer. The engine coolant runs through there and heats it up. So when you're going down the road, the water coming out here is piping hot. And then I have my different water fixtures and valves and things. I can hold 150 gallons of fresh water in this thing. That means I can go bug out somewhere for a good week, taking showers, washing hands, flushing toilets. I've got a lot of water. This little space here is reserved for the heating and air conditioning. It goes all the way through to the other side. Now, your generator will be in a lot of different places. They can put it anywhere they want depending on where you're going to be sleeping. Since my bedroom's in the back, they wanted to put this up front as far as they could. And I did a video all about this generator. I could put a link in the description. You can go see it on my other bus channel. Or if you're already on the bus channel, go find it in my other videos. This is a 17,000 watt diesel generator. It uses the same fuel that the bus is using, which, by the way, I have a huge 250 gallon diesel fuel tank, which means I can drive all the way across the country, or I can run this thing for a good 10 days. So if I need to go bug out somewhere off the grid, not plugged in, just sitting on my wheels, running on my fuel and using my water, I can easily go over a week, up to 10 days if I reserve it, or more, maybe 2 weeks if I don't have all the air conditioners and things running. And I leave the generator running the entire time I'm on a trip. It generally runs for a couple of 200 or 300 hours at a time. And the way it's set up, you can change the oil in it in a couple of minutes. And it's made to run for thousands of hours. These are the same generators that they use on oil derricks and out in the boonies. I mean, and on boats. These things are made to run for months and months at a time. I mean, this generator, we did rebuild it a couple of years ago, but it's a 30-year-old generator with tens of thousands of hours. And we rebuilt it and upgraded it a bit, and it runs great. And then you're going to have a bunch of different storage bays. This one here is just a storage bay. So I've got a bunch of junk in there, and this goes all the way through. I've got two 3,000 watt inverters in there, and just some maintenance items, things like that. And I don't want to get too intricate into it because every single bus is different. You never find two of them alike. But the thing that you're looking for an RV is water storage, gray and black water storage, lots of power, lots of electricity, lots of batteries, ease of use, all those kind of cool features. This is a cool little storage bay that I have. I've got some drawers here full of things I use, tools. I got fuel additives, got some cleaning supplies for cleaning up. I have a telescopic ladder in there. I have a little Segway on a drawer that I carry with me. This thing comes in handy running around campgrounds, or I drive this thing all over Vegas. I parked at Circus in Vegas and rode that thing all the way up to Planet Hollywood. That's pretty far if you know where that is. Again, this is part of the air conditioning and heating section. Little fuel door here. This is another bay that's a utility bay, which, you have, these are all giant coach batteries under here, and I have filters in here and AC adapters and cords and all sorts of things. So this is all just stowage. And then that other big door that you can't see is part of the other side of that other storage I showed you. A lot of room under here. And this is stainless steel. I like the older ones with the rivets. This whole bus is made of stainless steel, everything. The roof and everything. And that's important because these RVs that you buy, they're made of fiberglass that's bonded to wood and styrofoam to make them lightweight. And you basically have a big box of cards sitting on top of a trailer that's on top of a little van or a truck with a frame. And if you've ever seen an RV roll over or crash or catch on fire, it crushes like a styrofoam cup. The roofs, the roof is just plywood, and then they put like a rubber thing over it, and every 5-10 years or so you got to reseal it, redo it. This is made of stainless steel. This thing is put together like an airplane. These stainless steel panels come together, they're bonded and then riveted. Now the later models, they got rid of the rivets. I like the rivets because the later models are only using an adhesive bonding, and they've been known to kind of separate and you have to rebond them. Won't happen with a rivet bus. But I like the rivets. I think it's cool. It sends me back to that bygone era of the old airplanes. but it's stainless steel. It's not gonna rust. There's nothing on this bus that's gonna rust. All the hardware, all the panels, everything about it, stainless steel or aluminum. That's why this thing still looks new after 30 years. Back here is an access panel. Lets you get to your batteries and some shut-off switches. There's a battery charger here that keeps these batteries up. So you have 4 batteries for the engine, and then you have 4 batteries for the coach that connect not only to the 12-volt system of the bus, but also power the inverters. So if you don't want to run the if you're not running the air conditioners and you're in a nice neutral climate and you want to just run the inverters, you could run the TV and the microwave and that kind of stuff just on the batteries if you wanted to. And then, crank the diesel generator up and charge the batteries up for a while and then turn it off. You don't have to leave it running all the time. But anyway, this is just a little access point back here. And then you'll notice that there's an extra axle here. They call this the tag axle. Now the tag has a switch and you can raise it up and drop it down if you want. It's here for extra stability. But when you're making sharp turns, you flip the switch, this raises up and it makes the bus easier to turn, and that's why it raises and lifts. That's the entire purpose of it. So if you're making a U-turn or something in a parking lot, you can raise this up and it'll help the bus turn with a quicker radius. And then as you're going down the road, you lower them and it gives a little bit more stability for the ride because there's a lot of weight back here in this engine. Of course, a big concern is going to be the cost of ownership. You have insurance, which is actually pretty cheap. I think I'm paying, I'll have to check. I'm using Progressive. I think it might be $600 a year for $100,000 coverage. I pay another couple $100 for roadside assistance with Good Sam, which 100% you have to have. Because if you had to have this thing towed, it would cost you like $1,000. So, and I've had it towed before. Things happen. So you definitely want to have Good Sam or another major roadside assistance that's made for carrying RVs. And you have oil changes. You have fuel. This thing gets about 5 miles a gallon. 5 miles a gallon. But that's pretty standard with a lot of RVs. If you're going to get into a Class A RV, a 40-foot rig, I mean, this thing weighs, I think, 45,000 pounds. But here's the deal. If you got a budget of, let's say, 100 grand, 100 to 150 grand, I would recommend buying a 30, 20, or 15-year-old one of these buses over a brand new RV any day, because your brand new RV that comes with its brand new warranty is bupkis. Okay, they always screw you on these warranties. RVs are recreational vehicles and they're not necessarily covered by lemon law. And I just hear nothing but horror stories. So I want to get to a very blunt statement. And some of you are going to disagree with this, and some of you are going to be butthurt when I say it. But here's the deal. If you can't afford to pay cash for one of these, and if you can't afford to maintain it, this isn't for you. If you don't have $10,000 to $20,000 at the ready to throw at a transmission or an engine repair or something major, this is not for you. All right? You should just catch a flight somewhere, go on a Disney cruise. RVing is not for you. And this includes regular RVs. This is an expensive hobby. And I do say hobby. The other thing I'm going to say is you must, absolutely must have a basic knowledge of general handyman skills. Basic electrical, basic plumbing, basic mechanical engineer, basic hardware, construction. You're going to have to constantly fix something, right? I have a full toolkit on here, electric drills, saws, everything. Because you're always having to fix a door, this comes loose, this comes, something's always got to be worked on. And it's not because this thing is old. It's because there's a wasp chasing me. Go away. It's always because there's always, you're in a moving vehicle. Like even when they launched the space shuttle, cost billions of dollars, they always got to fix something, got to duct tape something. Tiles are falling off. When you're in a house that's running down the road, you got to be able to do basic repair, or at least have the money to have somebody fix it. Because there's going to be so many times that some little electrical problem, like behind this panel here. Let me show you this panel. This might scare you a little. Remember when you were a kid and they showed you that movie Scared Straight about kids going to prison? It was supposed to make you behave. This is like my version of scared straight. This is me scaring you with what's behind these panels in here. Yeah, look at that. Now you do have all the schematics for what all this does. But like for instance, I've personally replaced this relay twice. You know, this runs a fan motor in there. These are a lot of thermal breakers. There's a lot of stuff going on in here. And if you don't have the basic knowledge to read a very basic schematic and make simple repairs with fuses and electrical stuff, this may not be for you. I mean, look, you can always hire a mechanic to come out and meet you wherever you are. But you might be sitting for hours with no air conditioning or no whatever, or the inability to move. Now listen, I don't do major repairs myself. I get those done by a diesel mechanic or a bus mechanic or RV repair. But just regular basic stuff, changing fuses, light bulbs, putting in screws, tightening things, you're gonna have to do that a lot. Things get loose. One of the things that people notice right off the bat whenever they go in and out of a real bus is the door. These RVs have these like screen doors. They're the flimsiest crap you've ever seen, usually in the middle. The doors on these things are like a bank vault. You'll see what I mean if you ever check one out. This door must weigh 500 pounds. It's like a bank vault. Okay, now, back when they built this thing in 1990, they had regular tube TV in here. I've replaced that with a flat screen, which I actually use for a security system. Here we have breaker panel for you can turn on anything and everything that's inside the coach. Back behind here, we have some storage. It used to be full of like VCRs and stuff. I just have a Bose speaker system in there. And you can see the Bose speakers all around the coach. And this is the cockpit area where you drive. Now these little shades here, I got them from like IKEA. They were literally like 10 bucks. All right, and I'll show you a little bit more about the dash and how this thing works in just a minute. Just kind of showing you the interior when you come in. This is a rooftop unit. What I mean by that is the air conditioning runs along the roof here. So we have 3 rooftop units that are vented. So unlike an RV that just has like the plastic thing that's loud, just blowing, I mean, you're still gonna hear the air blowing in here. But they also make units that are called basement units, where they'll put in like a home style unit down in the basement of the thing and vent it up through the floor and down the sides. You also have what's called the bus air, which is the air conditioning that the bus has that runs out of the vents that would be used for, you know, like in a passenger bus. So you have bus heat and air plus the additional heat and air in here. I'm going to show you how we've taken a 1990 bus, kind of brought it into the future a bit. Huh? That's not too bad. I've got this leopard throw on top of the couch just to keep it clean, but it's, you know, just a basic couch. I picked up these barrel chairs from a local furniture place. I think they were $500 a piece. There was some kind of purple stuff in here and pink carpet or something, you know, that's all gone. Had this booth upholstered. I washed my hands. I was touching all them dirty panels out on the thing. And this is the thing, I have a full kitchen. This kitchen is about as nice as the one that I have at my house. I have to be honest. I have some modern appliances in here. And what's crazy is, in order to get the big appliances in, they have to come in through the windshield. You have to take the windshield out because they're too big for the door. Still have the 1990s trash compactor, which I actually dig. It's kind of cool. Now you'll notice over here I've got this big giant, what is this, 65-inch flat screen TV. I talked about this in my on my channel, my Videobob's RV and Bus channel. Basically what we did was we made a big panel that covered up these 2 windows, you know, with plywood. I took a basically piece of plywood, took it down to an upholstery shop, had them upholster it, screwed it into the ribs of the bus, mounted this TV onto the wall securely, ran a wireless HDMI system, and now I have my Apple TV that runs to the front and the back, and then a Toslink fiber optic that runs to the Bose Acoustimask. So I sit in here and I don't need to see out the window. What am I going to see? A parking lot, right? I can watch Netflix and YouTube in here, and I no longer need the satellite dish. I talked about this on my other channel. You know, basically I take my iPad, I put it on Wi-Fi hotspot, I throw it up on the counter, I sync the Apple TV to that, and I now have all the streaming video I want, and I can watch Netflix and chill right here on the couch while I'm having dinner. It's fantastic. Let's move in a little closer. Okay, we have a full stand-up shower in here. And let me tell you, the water pressure in here is very, very strong. Actually, this can fit in 2 different angles. There's a little fan up here to pull the steam out. Let me tell you, I have to be honest, the shower in this thing is actually better than the one in my house because I have really overpressurized the system. But when I turn on the water pressure in here, it is strong. I'll try to demonstrate best I can. I mean, it's kind of hard to tell from a video, but I mean, that's decent, you know? And by the way, if you have all the hot water you want, you'll never run out of hot water in this thing. This is going to be difficult because, you know, I'm surrounded by mirrors. But anyway, the toilet in this thing is really cool because it's an actual porcelain toilet. And it's got basically a garbage disposal built into it. They use them on ships and things, but you press a button and it's powered. And what it does is it's kind of like an airplane almost. You know, it sucks down the stuff and grinds it up into a nice soup. So you never have any chunks in there. But compared to the RVs that have like the little foot pedal, this plastic, this is way better. Sorry if you can't see it. There's tons of storage in here. You know, I mean, like I said, every one of these is completely different. Now, everything, you know, latches and locks. And there's plenty of room in here for a person to do what they got to do. My wife puts on her makeup in here. I take a shower. I shave. And there's pocket doors that close off each section so that you can have privacy. Now, one of the things I really love is I have a washer dryer. This is a Splendide combo unit. It's both a washer and a dryer. It's fully automated. It'll wash, rinse, and then dry. My only complaint is it seems to run a little hot, even on the lowest setting. Up here I have some of my media stuff. I've taken out all the old media stuff. I just got my Apple TV in here and a DVD player. We're not using the satellite stuff anymore. We don't need any of that anymore. The laundry room down in here. This is all storage, coat racks. I don't know what all I got in here. Keep my vacuum in here. I hung this Dyson up in there. I keep some of my clothes and equipment in here. The other thing you want to have is lots of tools. You've got to have a lot of tools. I carry with me a little bit of everything. I mean, I have wrenches and fuses and zip ties and screws and flashlights and screwdrivers and first aid kits and, you know, drills and just everything that you might need for doing electrical or whatever you got to do. All right, moving back here into the bedroom, you can see big giant TV. This used to be windows. I'm not going to lay in bed and look out the window. I don't need a window. I'm going to black out the windows. So we did the same thing here. We did the plywood treatment with where we had it covered, mounted it to the walls, had all this custom trim made, and of course I did this red LED lighting all throughout the whole rig, which is really cool because of course I love that. And I got a 65-inch TV here with Apple TV and sound bar. It's fantastic. It's like laying in bed at a drive-in. All right, now I will say it is pretty tight quarters back here because I've got, well, a lot of bed. I wanted as much bed in here as I could get. This is one of those foam mattresses. Brought the thing in a box and it expanded like a giant marshmallow. So it's almost soundproof back here. You got double pane windows. The engine is basically behind this. So when the engine's off, the generator's way up there and you got the door closed, man, you can't hear anything in here. That's why I had to put a little doorbell system in case somebody's trying to ring the bell. I put in this little tiny fan It's on a remote. Comes in super nice. Let's see. How's this thing work? Oh, there it goes. There we go. Got a remote. Have a radio back here. Alarm clock. Controls for the air conditioning, which is right above. Turn that off. And you have tons of storage for all your stuff. Now, what's interesting is I actually keep an entire wardrobe on the bus that's almost identical to my regular wardrobe. People ask me all the time, do I really wear black shirts every day? Yes, I do. Just into my closet here is just, I got a bunch of black shirts and some coats. And that way I don't really have to pack, because I know I'm going to wear a black shirt, because that's all I usually wear. And then I just went and I put a couple of weeks worth, about a week's worth of, got some underwear in here and some socks. So I don't have to bring clothes necessarily. I bring maybe a few pairs of pants or a suit or whatever particular thing. But that way I don't have to bring all my stuff with me. And I'm always ready. Even here, if I'm at my shop or wherever I am, if I want to come in here and change clothes or take a shower, I can do that anytime I want. Sometimes I come in here and just take a nap for a while or watch TV. It's great. Take a meeting in here, have lunch. So it's great to have basically an extra house. And it makes it easy to get around. But gosh, there's so much storage. There's just little cubby holes everywhere. You can carry everything you need in here. Oh yeah. This is nice. I have an extra house on wheels. There's been times where they were working on the roof of the house, or whatever the situation is. Maybe you have a fight with your old lady. You have a whole other house. You know, if we were to ever have a major disaster, let's just say there was a tornado tore down the house, we have this, right? And this is way better to go on trips. Sometimes you want to fly because you can get wherever you're going in a couple hours. But if you don't mind the ride, it's great. You don't have to find a hotel. You don't have to check in at 6 to make sure you get a room. You don't have to check out early in the morning. Housekeeping, go away. Right? I have my own food, the food that I trust. You don't have to eat fast food. You can cook dinner the same way you would at home. Because I have a full refrigerator, I have a full kitchen. You know, a private place to go to the bathroom. There's nothing worse than pulling over somewhere and having to use a truck stop bathroom. Oh. All those things, it's really luxury. But you're going to spend easily $100,000 or more on a rig like this. But in the world of RVs, that's not a crazy amount of money. I know it sounds like a lot of money, but if you've been shopping for RVs, you can drop a couple $100,000 pretty quickly. So, what's the real difference between a 30-year-old Prevost and a brand new $150,000 bus? Well, this thing, compared to an RV, is just a tank. It will last forever. 100 years from now, there's still a good possibility that this bus could still exist if it doesn't get wrecked. Even if it's just a carcass sitting in a field, it'll still be there in one piece. If you ever want to see what RVs are really made of, go to an RV junkyard. There's one in Kentucky. I think it's called Vision 1. And I walked around there looking for parts for this thing. I stopped in there and got some work done. I was actually there. It's kind of a long story. I had a 4Travel, and the 4Travel is a pretty good rig, but it's still a plastic bus. Plastic RV rather. I was getting some work done, and I was walking around this junkyard, and I noticed that one of the biggest things that happens to most RVs is fires. They usually start in the heater or the water heater or the refrigerator or the generator area, and they just go up like a box of matches. But the buses, even the buses that catch on fire, they still survive way better. And when you see a bus that's rolled over or crashed, good chance the driver might die if you run into something pretty big, but they're pretty survivable. They're just built so well. So I trust my life to this thing. And it's a good investment. And I talked to you earlier about depreciation. Well, I've owned this bus now for several years, and I have put some money into it. But if I decided to sell it, my loss would be minimal. But if I had spent $100,000 on a fiberglass wood RV, well, we all know those things, they depreciate to a level that is even below 10%. A 30-year-old RV from 1990, you couldn't give it away, and you probably wouldn't find one anyway because it would have disintegrated by now. Wouldn't be anything left. So keep in mind that the investment you make in these is sound. Also, when you come rolling in a bus, you get treated a lot better. When I come into a campground or wherever I'm going, it's sort of like that Rolls-Royce. I get treated like I'm a rock star. When I'm filling up at the truck stop, people come up and say, "Hey, who's in there?" "Me." "Who are you?" I'm like, "Go find out." Or we pulled into Universal Studios. They thought we were a charter bus. They just waved us through. They were like, "Yeah, go ahead." They didn't even charge us to get in. Here's another thing, parking this thing. I parked this thing on Hollywood and Vine with a trailer. I carry those orange cones with me. I go to LA all the time. I park at on Sunset in front of the Rainbow, right? In front of the Whiskey. Do it all the time. I park in front of Amoeba Records. Went in there shopping. I parked it, threw a cone out, turned the blinkers on. Nobody said anything. Everybody just assumed it was, some official bus. That's the great thing about it. If it looks like a real tour bus, I've pulled into concerts. They just waved me through. I don't even ask for my credentials. There's really a powerful statement being made when you come rolling in with a Prevost bus. And when you're talking to other people that have RVs and tour buses and you throw that name at them, you say, "Well, I daily drive a Rolls-Royce Phantom and I have a Prevost bus." They look at you like you're some kind of billionaire. And the reality is, I have less than 150 grand between the two of them. Live rich through depreciation. That's the trick. You can do it. Okay. All right. Now, you might be intimidated about the idea of driving one of these. Now, if you can drive a regular full-size RV, you'd be able to drive this thing. There's a lot of questions about the type of license you need. You need to be air brake certified. You have what's called a non-commercial Class A sometimes. It depends on exactly where you live, but quite frankly, you pretty much just drive it with your regular driver's license. It's really easy to drive. Once you learn your space, you know basically how long you are. And like I said, if you're going to be driving a Class A RV, you can definitely drive this thing. This thing floats down the road like it's on a magic carpet. And you have tons of visibility here. And you have these nice bubble mirrors, and over there I can see right down. I have these downward mirrors where I can see the lines on the road. Basically, I can see where I am. And I have a camera that I can see out the back when I'm backing up. And I have my mirrors, which are both adjustable. Right now I have the engine running on high idle, and I'm running up the air. Let me drop it down. That way you can warm up the engine quicker. But it looks like there's a lot of scary stuff here. But you got your two air pressures. You got front and rear air pressure. You got two air tanks. Just shows your air pressure, your fuel, your battery, your speed. These gauges are for the generator, showing you the water temp and the oil pressure for the generator. This is called a twin pyro. What this is it shows you the temperature of your exhaust. If you got hammered down, you're going up a mountain, you don't want the exhaust to get too hot. So you might want to ease back a little bit. You have your turbo and your RPMs. Then you have your water temperature and your oil pressure, and then your oil temperature and your transmission temperature. And you have some dummy lights up here to tell you your basic things. And then over here you have windshield wipers, some of the lights in the coach. You have your driver AC and then the bus AC. and just, you know, dimmers and things. But it's really not that complicated. You got a couple of switches, you got headlights, running lights, hazards, lock the door over there, key to turn it on. You know, you got a push button transmission, neutral drive, reverse, you know. You have a Jacobs retarder, which is, it's an exhaust system that will help slow you down. You're going down a hill, you know. You have some, like, yeah, light switch, cruise control buttons. Then you have a leveling system over here. You have a little arrow, and you can air this thing up. It sits on 8 airbags. You can raise the front up, or, you know, you can level the thing. So if you're going to park for the night, you can level it however you want. You know, you have some levels, and I usually try to park on a very level surface and drop it right down to the ground, right onto the wheels. That way there's no bounce or anything when you're moving around. Yeah, a stereo system. I got GPS. I got a Sirius radio, place for my camera. Everything you need. I got a little fan up there for me. And the seat is air seat, like in a truck. And it's very, very comfortable. I mean, I have no problem getting on this thing. I mean, with the exception of having to get up and pee, I could drive this thing from one end of the country to the other. The huge advantage to having that big gas tank, or diesel tank, I should say, is, for instance, when I go to LA, the minute you go into California, the price of gas doubles, or price of diesel, rather. I mean, so you can fill up at the edge of New Mexico or Arizona or whichever direction you're going. You can fill up for, like, you know, $2-3 a gallon, depending on what the fuel is. And then you go into LA, and then it's like $4 or $5 or more. So I'll fill up, I'll go into LA, drive around, and then on my way out, fill up again. So the great thing about having a big tank, it's not so much about the distance you can go, but it's about the ability to get fuel not when you need it, but when it's cheap. So I use an app called Gas Buddy and Trucker Path, and I'll look and I'll see where the cheapest fuel is, because certain states are higher, certain cities are higher. And I'll go find myself a, you know, like a Costco or a Sam's or something, or something off the beaten path, and, you know, go find some $1.59 diesel and fill this sucker up. As far as water goes, you can pull into most Loves, and they have a water spigot there. But I did a video on my Videobob's RV and Bus channel about how to steal water. I have a whole bunch of different adapters that'll adapt to almost any kind of water. So I can hook up to a fire hydrant or a commercial building. So I can go out and find water. I can find the stuff that I need. Because typically when I go out, I generally go out for about a week or two, usually about 2 weeks. Like if I'm going to go to Vegas or LA or Florida or something, you know, it takes you about 3 or 4 days to get there if you're taking your time. You know, I like to stop and eat. I like to go to roadside attractions, check out stuff on the way, you know, maybe go to a car museum, whatever. And you don't want to beat yourself up and, you know, kill yourself. I drive 6-8 hours a day, sometimes less, and enjoy yourself. The great thing is I don't have to go to a rest area. I just have to stop somewhere and go back there and do my business, pee, poop, take a shower, take a nap, whatever I want to do, and then keep on going. So I am not at the mercy of the hotels or the truck stops or all the other things that you would be if you were in a car. The other thing is, when you, I don't have to wear a mask in here. I haven't traveled now with the new COVID stuff. But when you go through the airport, for some reason, they won't let you carry these with you on the plane. You know, so for those of you who like to keep your, you know, it's like I've traveled and they won't let you take that on the plane. They just won't let you do it. So I like to take stuff with me, and when I get there, I've got it. Know what I mean? I don't have to worry about 4 ounces of whatever. You know, oh, that's too much liquid. So there's that, and then, well, you know, there's nothing illegal about what I'm doing here. These are all legal. You just can't carry them on a plane. Planes are dangerous. Planes are full of diseases. No diseases here in the bus. So this is something you might want to think about. Sometimes you just got to get out of town. You know, maybe you live in a city that's being besieged by a pandemic or protesters or whatever, and you just want to, or weather. Maybe there's a weather emergency. You want to go somewhere else for a little while. You could totally live in this thing for a couple of months without having a problem. And quite frankly, I look forward to the day that I think I retire in this thing. I would love to just have a nice Prevost bus, sell everything, and just travel in one of these and just live in it till I'm dead. I think that would be a fantastic idea. And once you get to know your rig the way that I know this one, you feel pretty confident going out in it. Because you know that it's never really left me stranded, not for very long. There's also a great community of people out there. Make sure to join us, Prevost Owners Group on Facebook. Great community of people out there. All the time people will come on and go, help, something's happened. And somebody will come on and help them, give them either the advice they need to fix the problem or tell them where they need to go. Because that's another big difference between this and an RV. An RV is like a cobbled together kind of a van or a truck or whatever. This is a commercial style vehicle. This is the same thing they use for Greyhound buses, big trucks, you know. So you need a tire or some diesel repair. It's not as crazy hard as you think to get this thing worked on. So let me go ahead and shut this thing down. It's been running. I don't know if you heard it. There we go. Like I mentioned earlier, I got these little blinds from IKEA. They were like $10. They replaced my old ones that were here. And they also work as sun visors as well. That's the other cool thing about them. Get it to lock. There we go. That took 2 seconds. I have privacy. Can't tell you how many times I've hit my head on this thing. My Prevost is one of my proudest possessions. It was a milestone for me. You know, I drove American Eagle buses, Prevost buses, and you know, other RVs and things in my life. And to actually be able to own one of these myself has just been wonderful. I've traveled the country, got to see and meet so many great people and great things. And I don't really see a time that I'm going to want to get rid of this thing. I really do love it. And that's why you'll see that there's such a passion for these. That's why you find communities of people who love these, just like on the internet forums. Most people who have these various different plastic RVs hate them. They're burdens. Yeah, it costs money, but everything costs money. I mean, you know, that's what it is. I didn't say it was free. This is not an alternative. Okay, this is not an economical alternative to travel. This is not cheaper than flying. You can fly first class and stay in a nice hotel cheaper than you can drive this thing probably somewhere. But that's a different type of experience. And sometimes that's what I do. Sometimes I don't have enough time to take this thing out. But that's what you're buying. You're buying the time to enjoy. I remember when Warren Zevon, the musician, he was dying of cancer, and he was in a talk show, and that he was asked what he was going to do with the rest of his time. He said, I'm going to read some books. And the host said, well, that's kind of strange. Thought you might want to go do some other things. And he goes, well, I realize when you buy a book, what you're really buying is the time to read the book. That's what you're buying with this. You're buying the time and the ability to travel the country. And even if you're using it locally, it's still fantastic if you're using it to go to car shows or events, things like that. This is great when we go somewhere like to a 4th of July show or something like that. And I actually use it to haul my trailer, and I'll haul one of my custom cars. Like there's a car I got to go pick up in Florida. I'm thinking, I'm like, okay, for $1,500 I can have the car shipped from Florida to Dallas. Or for less than that, in fuel, I can drive this thing to Florida, get the car, and come back and have a vacation. So that's how I look at things, and that's how I enjoy the bus. Well, I apologize if this video was too dang long and boring. For those of you who stuck with the whole thing, thank you very much for hanging out with me. Hope you learned something. I hope you got something out of it, and I hope you can reach your dreams of maybe having a Prevost or maybe even one of these. And it's all about, like I said, living rich through depreciation, letting things lose their value until you can afford them while they're still cool. I get to drive this every day as my daily driver, and I get to vacation in that. And I did it for less money than you would have spent on a reasonably newer used RV. And in my opinion, this is a way better way to go. Well, hey, thanks for hanging out with me. If you enjoyed this video, please share it, give it a like, and subscribe. And I do live videos all the time, so turn on your notifications if you want to live chat with me. Thanks for hanging out, everybody. It's getting late. I'm gonna go home. Catch you guys later. Videobob.
Subscribe to Videobob because I know where you live, bitch.